I stood up because nobody else would, about 20 years ago in the assembly hall at school. Someone had flooded the boys' toilets, and every child had been called to one place so that our head teacher could look at us all and say, "Nobody is leaving until somebody owns up." When I stood to confess, my sister also stood. "Abigail didn't do it," she said. "She's not even a boy." The real culprit didn't say anything that afternoon, but as far as I knew, I'd entered the toilets and kicked those pipes until they cracked. That is how it felt. I was one of 50 students. It was a school the size of a middle-class home. We were all guilty until proven innocent, but nobody wanted to leave the room more than I did. Some rooms are painful places to be, and there are times when there seems but one way out of them. People confess to crimes they didn't commit. They own things that are ugly, and we regard them as children so that it can be explained. The people that sign false confessions are the people who are easily confused. They are clumsy and compliant, we think. They should not be left by themselves, we assume. If they never did learn the basic instinct of self-preservation, it's because something else was happening to them during the years they should have. So long as they stand accused, they stand to do anything they're told. But it is one of those things, submitting to falsehoods, that anybody can do. You only need to be exhausted. In that same school, I found myself confessing to a crush I didn't feel. I was not a lot older than I was when the toilet flooded sewage, but I was old enough to know what it was to be overwhelmed. The crush in question was a child on the fringes, one that would determine your social standing should you choose to align with him. It was an accusation put to many potential victims, but it was me who eventually caved. It was an epic charge, so that my interrogators had a special stamina. They wore me down over a week, a long time in the life of a 6-year-old. The idea was to admit to liking the boy, so that I might never be tormented by it again. As it happened, my false confession did not grant an ending. Rather, it was the inception of a new kind of suffering. It is the only reason I remember it now. To be harassed is to have your options eroded. Everybody knows that, for it is difficult to use a tool you do not understand. People who harass other people into doing and being things are likely to know how it feels to be someone else's project. But people run out of steam, eventually. 1 week of badgering in primary school might have only escalated into 2. Our most enduring accusers are faceless. Your mind doesn't tire, and can go on alleging and making disconcerting suggestions for as long as it takes. That is why freedom is more commonly mistaken for acceptance in front of an audience of one. And it is difficult to retract confessions, even from yourself. There once was a solicitor who only wanted to work for the wrongfully convicted. He said he'd worked close to 100 cases, and at most had their sentences extended on account of their proclamations of innocence. They reject the plea deals, promises of negotiations for shorter sentences in exchange for admissions of guilt. They would rather remain imprisoned with the prospect of total freedom. It's a recognition of their rights that have them fighting on. It's a prolonged commitment to real resolution that gets them noticed by someone with real power. It seems, then, that there is something imperative about the time spent enchained.